As you know, you can watch it'll be uploaded on YouTube, and Josh will do the edited version where we'll mix the GoPro and the live feed you're getting off the camera here. That will be edited later today and up on YouTube and on our Watercolour Facebook page, which you've all been invited to. And the beauty is you can access these lessons anytime, watch them anytime, do revision of what we've talked about and that sort of thing. I'll start with materials, which are important, of course. Types of paper, quality of paper that I like to use. And to me, it's not necessarily colours in watercolour. You can paint with just 3 or 4 colours. Your primaries are red, yellow and a blue. I'll go through the quality of what makes up the watercolours as the transparents and opaques and staining colours in watercolour, which is sort of important to know about. The papers I like to use, this one is an Archer's rough, and I like them on the block because I'm probably lazy and don't tape them down, or you can tape them down. A couple of sizes. The Archer's rough, it's a nice paper. Here we have a Saunders rough, and I use both Saunders rough and the Saunders cold press. They're both about 300 grams. Another one I've been using since I went to China last year on a sponsored trip with some artists around the world. They gave us this Bao Hong paper. And I think Luke down there has posted on our page, Luke at Seniors. They've got a deal on it at the moment, so I think it's quite a reduction on it. And it's quite a nice paper, actually. There it is there. Fairly white and pure. They've modelled it actually off Archer's paper, which is becoming quite expensive. So if you're a bit worried about starting and wasting paper and that sort of thing, I highly recommend this one. Value for money and quality to work on. Now this one here is it's the rough, which I think they've even called it the Ross Patterson rough now, which is suitably titled because Roscoe is a fantastic watercolour painter. A lot of the watercolour painters I've been lucky to know around the world, some quality ones, all use the best paper they can get their hands on. And most is usually Archers and Saunders, till this one, Bao Hong's come into the market. But it's a really nice paper. And as I said, value for money for people to practice on and not be worried about wasting, $5 sheet or $10 sheet of Archers, or the Saunders is probably the next best quality, value for money, Saunders. So they're the papers. And this one here is an Archer's, I think that's an Archer's cold press I like using. It's a bit softer and the smaller works, and the Archer's rough, which is ideal more for dry brush work and impressionistic work, the Archer's rough, which is a very nice paper. The brushes I like to use, we have here, which I'll show you. We got some hakes, we got some squirrel hairs. They hold the water, nice amount of water. Hakes are great for just big, broad areas like skies and bigger paintings. A couple of different sized hakes there. They're soft, made of goat hair, and they're good for a beaded wash in the sky, which we'll demonstrate a bit later. And most important in watercolour, to have a brush with a point to it to guide, to be able to guide your way around areas in the painting, especially around buildings and structures and figurative things in your work. Let's look, where are we here? There, sort of like this one here. It's good. It's a good brush, this one. I must get another one. It's the art with a light on it there. It's a size 12 Sabelinski, made in Germany, and it's art. Oh yes, no, it doesn't matter. But you get lots of them. But I don't know whether you can see that. See the little point they get on them there? They're the ones, you need a couple of those, and they eventually the points wear off, of course, but it's important to have that point, and I'll demonstrate it as we progress in the workshop. There's another one I got in China last year. It's got a bit of a point to it as well. Ideal for detail on that. But I'll demonstrate that as a little demonstration this morning, showing you the drying stages, the wash stages, and that sort of thing. But that's basically the brushes I use there. And there's the couple of other sables here. I think that's a rosemary. It's a bit of a more of a round. It's got a little bit of a point to it, but it's ideal for blocking in mountains or blobby trees and things like that. But I find a lot of the time, like in my oils, I'll end up using 3 or 4 brushes, or even 3 brushes in watercolour. And as soon as they wear out a bit, I push them to the side. I've got here. Here, there's a finer one for pencil for drawing in. Kneadable rubber we need. It's softer on our paper. 2Bs, that's a little 2B, finer 2B, and that's a bigger 2B. And I have a little bit of sandpaper I sharpen him with as well, just to get a point to it. So we want 2Bs. I find them spot on, because you don't want the lead too hard and dig into the paper. And I usually only draw in the buildings or structures, and that's something I don't bother with trees and mountains, because the painting will tell you. That'll do. The painting will tell you what it needs as it develops. And some artists don't mind, but I'm not that keen on having pencil lines. You don't want a pencil line in a beautiful subtle cobalt sky where you've changed your mind on a tree and that sort of thing. That's one thing I've learned from experience, And it's amazing with watercolour how that fine bit of pigment in water, even though it's very transparent, seals the pencil. So it's very difficult to rub it back out once the wash has gone over the pencil. You think it'd be easier to just lift out, but it doesn't. It stays there. So you've got to think about that before you draw in as well. A little ruler sometimes speeds up the process of, drawing a few lines on a building. Plastic. A little plastic sort of knife thing, throwaway thing. Ideal for lifting off your paper from the pads. I did use the edge of the scissors, and I wondered why when I put a wash down there were scratch marks in my painting. Then it dawned on me the edge of the scissors was clipping the paper as I was ripping off the sheet before and leaving these marks. So I went to the plastic one. I saw Ross Patterson using plastic. I thought, that's why I was using the plastic. won't scratch your paper that you've got to use. Now, the list of colours. For today's little sketch and demo, I'm just going to use maybe 3 or 4 colours so we don't confuse you. And I'll use a little bit of Payne's Grey to show you, which I've been doing in the oils. Tonal study. And Payne's Grey, I've only recently started using it a little bit in my painting after the American artist I met in China, Andy Evanson, a good watercolour painter. He was using it a bit. I always thought it was a muddy colour, made your pictures muddy, but it's quite the opposite. It's quite a luminous, transparent, cool blue greys, great for shadows and mixing into shadow. But I shall, yes, atomizer, most important to keep the painting moving and damp depending on stages. I've got a hairdryer down there which I'll use today or in the classes, but I don't usually use the hairdryer. I like to let the pigment run down the paper and settle in its natural state. And these are very handy. The spot removers, I think they call them. Spot. They come at Coles or at your supermarkets. Just little foam. I think they're removing mould and stains on things, but they actually work quite well in your watercolour if you need to lift out an area and they're soft. Yeah, pretty good for removing. They can remove a certain amount, better than most sort of things. And also I like to have just at hand to mop up nice soft tissues, that can sort of mop up and then it runs down. You can grab it quickly before it goes into your paper. Also, they sort of help to blot if you want a soft area on your watercolour. But you'll see this as we progress over the next 10 weeks and using all the different materials and that goes into the watercolour. I shall demonstrate the colours that I use. We have here different brands. I've got some Daniel Smiths there, great. Got some old art spectrums. I've got some old Winsor & Newtons there as well. This Daniel Smith's a great cobalt colour. It's a rich, very vibrant cobalt. It's funny, I don't use cobalt blue a great deal in my oil paintings, but I love it and use it regularly in my watercolours, cobalt blue. We have our cerulean, coolish, cobalt, sort of warmish in watercolour. The ultramarine, of course we all know that one's a stronger blue. And here I have a bit of Payne's Grey, and the one I've sort of like from the Daniel Smith, raw umber violet. I did used to use raw umbers and burnt umber standard, but I discovered this one. It's already got, which I like, it's already got a little bit of alizarin or a crimson in amongst the brown, which I used to go regularly mix the crimson in with the burnt umber or raw umbers, and that saves me doing that. It's only a little bit, but it makes a difference. I enjoy using it. I'll demonstrate the qualities of these soon too. What the actual pigments do for us. And we have here's an old Winsor & Newton. This one's a Aurelian yellow, which is a cobalt yellow. Aurelian. What have we got it? Seized up a bit. This one's about 25, 30 years old. It's different when it comes out straight compared to when it dries off a bit. Aurelian, yeah, cobalt yellow. Very transparent, lovely. And we have here, it's the cadmium scarlet. Got plenty. There's a very strong red cadmium scarlet there, which I use in the oils as well. And here we have a bit of rose madder genuine, which is sort of my subtle pinky colour. Some use alizarin, but alizarin can be quite staining. I avoid staining colour, which are the Windsor blues, Windsor reds, those sort of things. Alizarin. And not much sort of, there's the burnt umber there. Haven't used a great deal. Burnt sienna, which I've just started using. Transparent red oxide, very similar in the same family, but I'll squeeze some of it out anyway. Yeah. Seized up. I'll wash some on there, we'll get an idea what it looks like compared to our red oxide. But it's a transparent too. And Australian red gold. It's great colour, even in oils and in watercolour too. It's a great colour. There we go. Beauty of these watercolours, they go a long way. Some ultramarine on there. And we've got a little bit of raw, plenty there. Raw sienna, it's a great colour. Forgiving sort of colour, but in the golds and in the yellow ochre sort of range as well. That's a great colour. What else have we got? That's the one I'm after. Old Winsor Newton yellow ochre. We'll just top him up a bit. Use him a bit. There we go. And sometimes I use a little bit of the magenta, and there's a violet colour, which I must try and track down again by Selenia. I quite like it. It's cobalt violet. Or is it? It's not it. No. That's right. Put a bit more Payne's grey in here. There we go. No, Winsor Newton Payne's grey. Get a little bit more of him in there. Put him over there, that side of the well. That's sort of the darks. And a little bit of Chinese white sometimes. If the painting's not working, I have to harmonise it. There's a bit of Chinese white. Very little sometimes Naples yellow. Because it's already got a bit of white in the pigment anyway. But I try to set out to do my watercolours without any use of white in the medium. But however I get towards the end, I need a little highlight or a flick here and there. Just a little bit of gouache. It's a bit more solid in the pigment than the Chinese white, and usually tinted with a little bit of your warm red or a yellow is going to give you a little warm if you need to flick a little bit of highlight here and there. But it's the very last resort. I set out to try and achieve the painting without the use of white, being a snobby purist. Cobalt turquoise, fantastic colour, especially Venice paintings, grey greens and that sort of thing. A friend Joseph Zabukovic uses it a fair bit. He put me onto it years ago when I first got introduced to watercolour, when we both used to teach out of Bathurst many, many moons ago, in the late 80s, early 90s. That's the basic palette there. I probably use more colours in watercolour, I don't know why, than oils, to get that bit of variety. But what I'll do now is set up, I can go there, a full page here to do some demonstrating of our colours and where they come into our range of oh, here we go. Transparents and opaques, which is important to know a bit in watercolour. Don't want that, I can go there. That's better. Okay. And one of the basics, is good preparation. So I've got my palette set up here. I've got the water there, so I'm going here to here to here with it. Spray bottle there, so everything's handy. You want to work your watercolours basically on 20 to 25 degree angle is ideal. So we want our pigment to slowly run from the top right through the page slowly. As watercolour runs down your paper, the pigment's in the water rolling and tumbling, and it's dropping into the paper as it runs down. If you have your paper like this, it's going to run straight off and very little pigment's going to settle in to your paper. If you have your paper too flat, you're going to have problems with it back washing up and giving you those horrible balloons and blooms and cauliflowers and that we try to avoid in watercolour. So that's one of the basics. There, water there, on about 20 odd degree angle or whatever, it'll 20, 25 roughly. It's about a good angle to work in generally. Let's have a look at some of these colours here. I'll just grab a tissue. It's ideal to have, this is the little demonstration we're going to work with today. It's just one I do with the classes just to show them the the process of drying stages in watercolour and when to go back into it and thickness of paint. All these things we have to think about with watercolour compared to oil. But the basics are similar. Your concept of art, your vision of a painting is no different than oil. It's just a few different technicalities. And sort of people say, oh, watercolour's harder than oil. No, it's not. They're similar if you know the exact procedure to take. And the same procedure with oil to get a nice fresh oil. You need to get them darks in, strong and dark and clean. Where with watercolour, it's the whole opposite. We're looking at lights. Most important in your painting, first up are the light values. We're looking at light values and what we call a ghost wash, which I'll come to soon in the demonstration. But I'll just go through the colours with us now. Now my favourite, blue, which is what we call in watercolour a transparent blue. And this is our cobalt. Here we go. Look at that, beautiful blue. Very prevalent in Australian skies, and you can tweak it with a red or a yellow to get it. And that's our cobalt blue, that one. See how it's running down the paper at that sort of pace, the bead there, what we call a bead. Want to drop under it. And that's a transparent. The other transparent I like to use, which is a great combo, is our Rose Madder Genuine. These are all great to use in the sky and warm under washes. Yeah, look at that. See how transparent that is. Look at that. That's a transparent. And the other transparent Here's our Aurelian. Yeah, look at that. Lovely. These are just so you know what they do. And the other transparent, here's the earthy, our burnt sienna here. Yeah, look at that. It's a nice colour too. Very transparent. That's very close to the red oxide, as in the oils as well. I think this is the red oxide I've got here. Drop him under. Yeah, it's just a, geez, they're nearly the same. Just a little bit more brick red colour, yes. A little bit more zing to it, like in oils. You can see the transparencies there. And we have a little bit of that cobalt turquoise here, which is a transparent as well. Yes, look at that lovely cool grey green colour. They're the transparents I use mostly. Now our opaques, a little bit of Indian red I use sometimes. This is our opaque. It's a little bit thicker, especially the mean opaque, more so when it covers over over a wash. That's the opaque. Indian. Other opaque is our cerulean blue. And it's sort of in the red, yellow, blue opaques. So we've got a cobalt, rosemate on aurelian in the triad there of our 3 red, yellow, blue. And this one, yeah, look how thick that is. Yeah, milky even. And that's our cerulean, Indian red cerulean. And our third in the triad will be the yellow ochre. It's a thicker one. See, it's even, they seem to, the opaqueness, I think they could have a little bit of sort of that white that's naturally, or whiter pigment that's in the mix that gives us the opaqueness. See that there? What I'll do after the class, I'll write the names next to all these and transparents, and then I'll post it on our page for us. This is just a demo page to, you know, show your drawing stages and that sort of thing, just so you can remember. Mr. Whippy. You go and get us an ice cream, Josh? Here's our raw sienna. He's sort of a bit more transparent, forgiving than the yellow ochre. He's a bit more zing too. Look at that. See the warmth in that compared to the yellow ochre. It's a lovely colour. That one. And here we have our Australian red gold. It's got a zing to it. Look at that. It's great for you know, greens in trees and things like that. You can mix it around with a yellow. I'll get it. And sometimes, yeah, this magenta-y violet I use, which is a slight transparent as well. There we go. Cobalt violet magenta. But usually you can mix that with those two, is going to get a similar mix for us there. So I don't use any staining colours because they just go straight in. They're virtually like using ink. The Windsor blues, Windsor reds and Windsor yellows and those sort of colours. These are all a little bit more forgiving for us to work with. And with it. Yeah, so it's good to know what these colours do. So usually I'm starting a watercolour more in the transparents in a way. Maybe a little bit of ochre we'll use today in the demo. And then you can finish with a bit more of the opaque over the transparents. It's a little bit thicker, a bit more body to the body to it. But we've got to keep it working down the page. What I will do is we'll do this as a little experiment, and I'll do a little sketch of it in. Payne's grey as well, just to give you an idea of the tonal values. Even in watercolour, they can be a bit more delicate. So we're looking at starting our watercolour and all our lights, and start at the top with this and bring it through, right through the painting. Okay, down the bottom here I'll do just a little sketch of it in Payne's grey to get an idea of values. This is just a simple sketch as a building, simple, but it's the same process even in a more complex subject we're going to work with. So we've got our I want that there. 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 Let's bring him down there. What's that racket going on out there? So you can just lift out a bit, which I do with the watercolours. I don't want too much pencil left there. Get the perspective right on there, even just in a little sketch. We have the tree there roughly. There, and we have our horizon back here. There's even another little building in here. Rooftop angle. Mountain comes in there. Roughly. The same with what I've been teaching with the oils too. It's no different in watercolour. It's making sure you get the feeling of where the light's coming. You see in this painting here, this little watercolour, our light's coming across here, isn't it? So we've got the light value of the tree, the shadow of the tree. We've got the cloud and shadow of the cloud all running the same way. We've got shadows coming off this way as well. So it's important to hold those values of darks and lights all coming, in the same direction in your painting. Put that there for the moment. I need to draw in another one. Okay, I just need a little brush for this because I need a little area. So I'll do. Okay. We'll just do a tonal study in our Payne's grey here. That's a bit dark. And it's handy to have too, because with watercolour, it's very hard to know before you make the mark. When you're starting now, when you get used to it, you'll just go straight to it. But keep some scraps of paper and just give it a dab, and that's going to give you an idea of the strength of value. And also in watercolour, you have to be conscious of it usually dries back 2 or 3 tones lighter than the original wash you put on, the original stain. But you'll get used to that. The more you do, you will get used to the drying stages and how it dries. I'll use that bit there. So I'm picking that up, run it down to the paper. See, I'm going, even in a grey, I'm going under the bead there. Coming down. And we'll do this in a coloured version too, so we run it down the, got our cloud there. Busy talking. Doesn't matter. Get it in. That'll do. It's important to a bit of it around there even. And we bring this right through the feeling of our sky. It'll come in around our nut. There we go. And you'll gauge the right amount of water when you cut in around buildings and etc. See that? It's amazing how it sits. It even sits for you. Right on the edge. You see the pointed brush, how I'm able to guide around the pointed brush. I love it when that sort of starts happening. It sort of comes out, what we call the ghost wash. Look at that. Watercolours are a fun medium of the way they mix and blend on your paper, and they sort of paint themselves in a way. They've got a sense of freedom, slight freedom, that you have to be aware of. Look at that. There we go. And we've got our lighter feeling of mid-distance. It's only delicate, and this is only Payne's grey. Tonal study I'm showing it. But when we come to our coloured version, there we go, look at that. Same sort of process. Now, we have to wait. We'll see how quick that dries even. It's still too wet. To test your paper, use the back of your finger like this and you'll get a feel of the dampness. There we go. I'll test that because I don't use the dryer. Josh, can you pass up that hairdryer? You pass up that hairdryer, thanks. Thank you. Excuse the racket for a minute. We'll just dry this off a bit. Because in winter it takes a lot longer, and in summer you're spraying like this to keep the paper damp, to keep it flowing. See how that works. Now, I just dried it back pretty quick. Now this is what, even in the colour version, or this version here, what we call the ghost wash, which is all our lights. We consider the where we want to leave highlight in watercolour. The ghost wash runs right through usually in this technique. Sometimes people go more direct and paint in different fashions, but I prefer this. It gives them more of a unity and a mother colour coming through your watercolour, the ghost wash. Although I have done plein air where things change quick, I'll just quickly block in and then maybe turned upside down and do the sky later because I haven't got time to let it dry. But this is dried back quite nicely, so that I can feel that now. Good. Dry. So most important, ghost wash all your lights, and then you're letting it dry before we come back in with our next wash, which will be, say, the that background hill there. We'll get him in. Again, I'll test it a bit on here to give me an idea of the strength I'm after. That could be it. As I said, it's only just a bit of a sketch to give you an idea of the tonal sketch. There we go. And it sort of comes in behind our shed as well. I'll try and get in one nice big broad. So that one nice big broad sort of wash. There we go. And let it run down. That's the beauty of watercolour. Look at that beautiful way it runs down the paper for you. So we're cutting it around our building there again, just to give you an idea. Tone through here. We got it through the back here as well, roughly. There we go. We'll lump in a bit more. And we've got to try and emulate this in our coloured version. There we go. I love tone. Tone makes the painting. And sometimes even we're coming down there, so we've got a row of trees there. Slightly stronger in tone, I'll just drop it in, as it works down the paper. It's a bit too dark. Lightening back, there we go. And we've got another couple of trees there, look at that. I didn't get that, missed that bit there before in the distance, that doesn't matter. Get there. It's also a good little trick I learnt too when I started watercolour and didn't realise it until here. How it helped was, if you're going to tape your paper down, if you're just going to tape it down, cut up probably the economical ways to buy a full sheet and cut into pieces that you want, usually quarter sheets. Tape it down, but tape it down onto a white surface, because that gives you an idea. You could compare the values next to white. Even if you're colouring in your watercolour and you've got white around it, you're comparing the strength of pigment and tone next to white, which gives you a good idea. And it's amazing, when you finish your watercolour and you drop a white or a cream matte around it, it really comes to life. Now, checking that, still a bit, I'll just give that a little zap because I want that to dry. So I can do a bit of the building and the tree that we're doing. There. As I say, I'll show you how a little bit of sponge, that'll lift it out a bit. There we go, look at that. Now, we've got our shadowed area of our building here. We'll get a bit of that in, hopefully that's dry enough. So we want that dry so we get a hard edge. So with watercolour, if you want hard edges, paper's got to be thoroughly dry for a hard edge. You're looking at moist and damp, going back into it to see those softer edges. Now we're still moist and damp running through there. But we're going with this for a bit thicker. Let's try a bit strong, but that doesn't matter. We can lighten it back a bit. Still getting a feel of it myself. I haven't done a watercolour for a couple of months. There we go. Look at that different. Bring him down there roughly. Hey, lovely. Go away even just in greys, those variations in there. And fill the tank there. And we've got back here, a bit of shadow under that building there, going back that way. Let's give it a bit of form. And even off the back of the roof there. Angle. There we go. A little water tank maybe. Look at that, values bring it out, don't they? Beautiful. And we can go, we've got a bigger, one or two bigger trees there. We'll go one here. Come into it, give it a bit stronger around the shadows around the back. There we go, look at that. And we've got shadow on the ground too, which is a bit more what we call dry brush. We want to line up and give it a nice flick. See that? Lovely shadow coming off the ground there. The odd fence post in there. You see they're starting to take shape. Look at the values. Just Payne's grey. And see the paper's a little bit dry. Even though it's too wet, it'll be no good for our hard edge for a trunk or so. There we go. And so we've got a couple more trees there that are a bit darker in value. One behind the building. There we go. Value off him. Now, maybe him a little bit darker as well there in value. And we've got a feeling a little bit of shadow under the eaves here, lost and found, bring out a bit of form to it. And drop down there, a bit of a window, a bit stronger in value. There we go. And I like to do this sometimes too, when it's slightly wettish and you get that soft edge, say there's a little window in there, just drop it in and let it move with the paint. And a doorway there, roughly. So these darks, little darks, bring it out, don't they? Lovely. There we go. And we've got our tree here, so we'll get a feel of him in here as well. The big tree in behind, we'll bring it about there, roughly. Yeah, those little negative spaces are important in your tree and watercolour too. And sometimes you want that, which I like in trees and that, is that bit softer edge. And sometimes all you have to do, you can hit it with a bigger picture. I'll hit it with the atomizer and that'll soften it and let it run. But with this one here, I'll just see my tissue. If I just dab it, there we go. Yeah, we'll get just a little bit softer feel. There we go, look at that. It doesn't take much, just that little bit to moisten it a bit. It's easier to, sometimes I find, to let it dry, then you just moisten the area. There we go, look at that. You just moisten that area and you'll get those lovely soft edges that watercolours are renowned for. There's my English artist friend Trevor Chamberlain, who's 80-something now, a master watercolour painter. It says watercolour is a fluid medium, and that's what we want. Make it look as though it's wet still, even when it's dry. It's a great, to me, it's a great watercolour. Some good exponents of that in history. J.J. Hilder and Sturgis, those guys, R.W. Sturgis, good Australian painters. They could make, the watercolour look wet, so it's still moving. There we go, there's a bit of light. And at time you can just tickle a bit, so just dampen it. There we go. Lovely. And if it's a little bit dark there, sometimes the tissue, I'll just dab it. See that? So that's lightened that just there for me. An area is still soft. There we go. Let's give them the dark value there. then you can finish now with a post or two, the detail. See the fine point on that? Gives you the, like a post. There. A little dark under the eaves there, even just to help bring that forward a bit up there. Tank in shadow, that'll look good. There we go. So you see the general feel. We're going to convert this to colour, and we'll only use 3 or 4 colours in this little demo here. We've got that distant mountain too, so we can get that in. Sometimes those are just virtually water with a little tint there. There we go, look at that. There's our distant mountain. Gives us another little range there into the distance. And just indicate another subtle wash here, a bit of a track. There we go, look at that. Still wanting to keep some of those nice light values, especially in watercolour. The light's so important coming out of the paper, because we're only using, to achieve the light and the white paint. White paint in watercolour is water in the paper, and the transparency coming back at you is what is our white paint, our use for white paint. So it's just a little demo there, and then you sort of, you can, there's a couple of little thistles or whatever, but the coloured version will give us a chook or two in here. They're nice little sort of dark notes that sort of you pick out towards the end. They're thicker, a thicker consistency, maybe even feeling of a dead log or something there. If you don't like it, if you get it quick enough, you can lift it out in watercolour. There we go. Anyway, that's just our tonal sketch. Give you an idea. Light coming that way. So we'll do that in this one now. I just have to shoot downstairs quickly. Josh, can you take this off? I'll just have to go downstairs. Okay. Let's just sketch this in. I'll drop the horizon down a bit in it. We'll see. Anyway, this is just a little imagination demo I did for the class to go through our drawing stages. There we go. Yeah. This is just a bit of the Saunders rough. It's not a bad paper. Good, good value. Down. Just want to that way, roughly. Yeah. Come down on a slight angle a bit more there. There, roughly there's a vertical. And we'll get that tank with a little bit of light, bit of a challenge to hold our light white paper there, half in shadow effect to it. Have a window there roughly. As I said, this is only a little sketch. Sort of what we're doing in our black and white. There. And I'll bring that one rising about there roughly. And we'll get this feeling of a rooftop in here just on a angle. Leave him white paper. And once you're drawing lightly, I'm not scratching our paper a great deal. And you can just lift out just a little bit with the rubber. Where you don't want, envisage, as I said, I'm envisaging where I don't want pencil marks in my paper. And we've got our tree here, we'll bring him in beside it there roughly. Yeah, I might send that back a bit better, looks better, a bit more. Take him over a bit. There. Sometimes just like to get one or two little straight lines as a guide in there. Just a bit out of line there. Anyway, I shouldn't be too pedantic. This is just a demo for our stages for you. Bring him down there. It's got him. There we go. About a tad. Okay. I'll write next to this for you as well. When we finish, I'll write next to these colours, and I will also write the stages we're going to do this watercolour in, the drying and ghost wash, which is the very first wash we're going to do now. But you're seeing it recorded anyway, our ghost wash. I should put this somewhere that I can see the thing. You can see it. Actually, it would have been... Just hold that there, Josh. I'll put it... What I'll do, I'll bring... Which will work better. This one here. Make sure I've got all the oil paint off it. Perfect. Maybe just here. It's in there. I should still be able to see it. I'll lift it up a bit. Out there. Hang on. Yeah. Can everyone see that? Can they see that there? Yeah. Just as a stage. Is that all right?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Okay. Make sure our paper's all clean. Any pencil we don't want, it's off. Now, when I do this first wash, I want to be really prepared. Get these brushes cleaned. Because the ghost wash is where the panic is, and the mind has to be really alert. We're getting the plan. We want to plan with the watercolour. Very important to think about the plan of your lights, where the lights are, the composition. Visualize it in your head before you start. Mountain there, sky, that sort of thing. Okay, this is one of my favourite hakes about this size here for the sky. I'll clean, what I will do is clean one of these wells out here, so I've got a reasonably clean area to work in. A lot of the time I leave those colours there because I'm using them in the next painting, these sort of lights and that, but we'll give that a clean area. And it's important to get yourself a palette with watercolour. See the amount of wells, and I actually even glued some plastic in here to give myself some more areas. If I'm doing a really big watercolour, I will use even like soup bowls and that to do mix a big wash up in, using big brushes as well. Tissue's so handy. Okay, we'll start with a cobalt blue. We'll run that through as our sky mix, and we're going to work the cloud, and I'll show you how to work this cloud, because clouds are difficult. You want soft areas. You don't want them soft. They've got soft and hard areas in the clouds. So we'll start with a cobalt blue, and we'll run it right at the top here. There we go, lovely. So that nice big broad wash, so that through there like that. We want, and it's going to be stronger at the top, so I'm making sure I'm getting a nice amount of pigment in that wash up the top there. See that? So that one big broad wash for the sky. Then we'll add a bit of water into our brush, get in under that bead. We need to keep that bead moving. See it there? If you let that settle too long, you get a line through it. We don't want a horrible line. There we go. A bit lighter at the bottom as well. Here we go. Now we're visualising our cloud, which will get him in. Keep it moving. Through the cloud's going to be about over here somewhere roughly. Now we're bringing a bit of the lighter, a bit more water on the brush. See, we're keeping it moving down the paper. Lovely. We want to keep that, and this is very difficult right now. Where's that brush? I want, and the tissues, to dip this brush just in clean water. See those soft edges in our clouds? Get the right amount, and I'm just, see that, using the paper back into it there. Look at that. And a cloud there even. See that? That's getting the soft area of a cloud, and it's gauging the amount of white paper we need to keep to get a nice, there we go, lovely. Now the mountain's going to go there, but it has a bit of the sky, which I'm bringing the sky through. See, this is all very panic, nervous wreck stuff. Gauging the right amount of water. See, to the edge of our building there, look at that. Leaving it white, look at that. And we got our this there, and over the side here we've got keep it moving. There we go. And this is what we call the ghost wash. And not too many hard edges, only where the buildings are going to go. That's going to be a nice cloud, that actually, coming through there. And the feel, a bit of the, which is going to be there. The mountain's going to be there. Then we've got the other rooftop in here. We're going to get into the painting. There we go. Now as we're coming down to slightly our horizon, you know, the feeling of the distance in here. He's going to be there. We're going to drop in a little bit of the yellow ochre. Keep it all fluid and wet. So there we go. Lovely light colour, maybe a bit of the hill ochre goes back up into the hill there a bit as a bit of variation. There we go. Look at that. Rooftop in there. And we'll get over here. So we keep it running through. A bit rich as we come forward. So I'm cutting to the edge of my building. Especially buildings and structure, they're harder edges. So we want to keep that effect in our watercolour. There we go. That's a bit high. Didn't want him up there. About there roughly. So we'll lift out the mountain, I'll come down and cover that, or the mid-distance trees. But you can't go wrong in watercolour if you get, you know, these lights all working. So I only use yellow ochre and yellow ochre and cobalt so far. And it'll be the cad scarlet red here. See little bits of that amongst it. Keep it fluid and moving. Here we go. Sometimes I leave those little bits of white here and there. I like to do that just to pick them up later. They could be anything in the paddock. I always find, you know, with a watercolour, go bigger brush here. Keep it moving. A bit stronger as we come forward. There we go, look at that. Keeping that so it's moving with it. I don't mind that. A little bit of, just to keep it softer, just there around the base of the building. We'll damp our tissue, look at that. Where it goes into it a bit. There we go. So it's envisaging the way it's going to look. Now this is our ghost wash. See how it's appearing? Starting to give a little bit of structure to the painting. We've got that lovely, a little bit of orangey track in there. As I said, this is just, I just do this as a little bit of an idea of that, give you an idea of the stages and wet into wet. Now there we go. We can drop a bit more ochre in here and there, just to, there we go, richen it up. Areas in the foreground. See how that's all wet into wet and moving together? That's what we want our ghost wash to be. Look at that, beautiful. That's the beauty of watercolour. Whew, there we go. Now, we have the feeling of our cloud here. That's dried off nicely. See, we've got the little purple greys. While this is drying here, our sky's dried off quick, so that's great. So we'll go a little bit of cobalt. Even with that bit of that red's going to give me a grey. Look at that. Just with that cat scarlet and cobalt. But it's the tint of it, you know, that, as I said, a bit of our white paper just to check it. There we go, lovely. So we're getting, see the little bit of the shadow in behind the cloud? Coming out that way. And our mountain's going to come through here as well. Down. We did cover that nice cloud up with our mountain. Now, so we got some of it here. See that? What I like with watercolour too is that put that on. And even could be some stronger tints of it in there. See the variation? Drop it in. Bit of blue in there, gives a little bit of variation. Look at that. And the cools and warms. There. Now, the atomizer. Look at that. Let it all run down. Beautiful. So that softened it. The softness in a sky and a cloud. And I'll just maybe mop up a little bit with the tissue. There we go. Lovely. Look at that. Getting the feel in the shadow working down the paper. Now as that's even damper, I can even just, there we go, drop in if I want a little bit. Model the cloud up a bit stronger. It's going to dry back, and even if I want to push in and get those little bit of lighter tones, there we go. There. That'll do. Lovely. A bit under there. See that water's just sitting there beautifully on the paper. I can just model it a bit. Don't want to get too fiddly with it, but I'm just sort of envisaging the roughly design. I'm probably being a bit pedantic, so I'll just a sketch to show you our drying stages. Now this is nice and dry here. You might even bring our main sort of mountain structure through. Made a little bit of a blunder there with that white, but it's not too bad. And what we have to do too, see that lovely, look at that lovely cloud. I don't think you can see that on the camera or the GoPro. You'll see that. Just look at all soft edges all working together beautifully. Just let it, see how it's coming down, watercolour's doing its own thing. Okay. Now, that's the importance of our first wash, the ghost wash. Hang on, I'll write it on there. I'll write it here. First wash, what they call the ghost wash. And most important, let it dry. Go and have a cup of tea and come back. First stage. There we go. Number one. And you'll feel that, you know, when you feel it on the back of your finger like that there. Okay, now we shall do our mountain, which is the next stage. It's nice and dry there. Here's the brush I'm after. Now it's going to be, that first wash is sort of the quality of, you know, a sort of a weakish cup of tea. You know, that's the quality of it. There's Joseph, it's a book which sort of termed them, which is the great terminologies. Tea, milk, coffee, cream, and Vegemite. And that's sort of the thickness, consistencies you want in your watercolour. So we'll go a bit milkier in this mountain, which is, we'll keep it in just the red and the blue vein there. Maybe it's a tad of the yellow, not much. Cat scarlet. Sort of slight purple, as we know it's going to dry back for us, so we'll give a little tint test. Maybe a little bit more red just to yum it up a bit. There we go. Maybe just a little bit more water. Now also, when you're mixing up, so I'm mixing this up for a big broad area, I want to make sure, gauge the amount of wash in that well is going to do the job for me in that big area. Because there's nothing worse than bringing a wash down the page and half running out and trying to remix. Then you're getting all these hard edges and horribleness. And you can see in that one there, and what I'm going to try to attempt in here as well, is I want this to have that beautiful, simple, broad, lucid wash that's great in watercolour. Now I've mixed it, I've got the brush, roughly this mop, recab, squirrel, whatever it is. I'm going to gauge, the mountain, the size I want of it. So we're going to start it roughly there. Look at that, one big, and cut it in around the edge. GoPro battery's gone flat, dang it. But we're working on that. We're getting a spare. But you'll still see it on the other camera. There we go, look at that, lovely broad flowing wash of our mountain. Cut through there. So it's not a bit of shape in the mountain. As I said, it's just a demonstration to show you the drying stages and so forth. You can see how I'm still cutting around our roof there. It's making it jump now, tonally. There we go. There we go. So that's still nice and damp and lucid there. And a lovely flow of it. I didn't want that. There. Gotta be careful with the. There we go. Nice. Now, so second watch. We're going on to dry here, so keeping the flow of the hill coming through. So starting to take shape. Got that edge there, lovely. Even those little lights will indicate some buildings back there. Looks great in the distance. Through, as I said. There we go. Now, bringing down. That looks good as a little roof in there as well. Let's come down a little bit higher there. Softening back. We will that rooftop we had in there. Do it about there. I like that feeling of when we get in there while it's wet. Just a little bit of the grass going back up into the hill. And there as well. There. Over there. And there as well. Keep it running through. Lovely. So you connect it up and it runs into it, getting those lovely sort of lost and found edges. I need to get it here more too. Just there. And look at that. Lovely. Once that tone goes in, we just run it through there. And it's still very light. Could have just made it a bit softer there. There we go. Not too many hard edges in the distance. I like to keep it all soft and loose and lost and found. Look at that, beautiful. The way it's sort of that lovely simple wash of the mountain. That'll lighten back for us. Then we'll flick the lighter one in there later. Oh, that's still quite moist there, quite nice. I might just give it a little quick dry. Just knock it back on stage. That's it. And what I'll do now is just richen up a bit of that same mix we got there, a bit of ochre, just to give us another row of trees coming through. And I've only used 3 colours: yellow ochre, the cat scarlet red, and the cobalt so far. There we go, look at that. So it's just a bit more red in the mix. It sort of brings it forward. I'm just wanting to get, there we go, lovely, that little bit of nice yummy wet into wet feel into it. There we go. Just drop it in, let it work down. There we go. Another 1 or 2 there. Got a bigger tree coming, so it's working down. There we go, lovely, look at that. And we could even get, see, our bigger tree there as well. We might even go just a little bit of the raw sienna into that, just a bit stronger browny colour. And where is he, roughly? We might even put him over here. There we go, look at that. Drop him in. He's just a bit richer in colour and he's just going to come forward a bit for us. Maybe one there. As I said, it's just showing you the strengthen him a tad, drop it in, let it work down. Look at that. See how it's starting to come to shape? There we go. Good fun watercolour. It's good to be able to do a couple of mediums. And the beauty of watercolour too is, if you travel, if that'll ever happen again, it's a great tool to do a painting or a sketch. I've got a little plein air watercolour setup that I made, which I'll show you next time. I'll set up and show you, with a little handheld sort of schminky setup and that. To travel with. There we go, I can go back, lovely. Get that little range in there as well. Got one there. Yeah, just slightly warm. You can see the tone like we did here. So we've got strengthen him a fraction too. Just there, those ones can be. Yeah, lovely. Just bring them out a bit more. That line roughly. So I'm cutting around our building there. Didn't want that there. We'll get a new one. Tissue will do it. Just dampen the tissue. If I want to just lighten him back a bit there, take the line. There we go, look at that, just lifts it out for you. Soften those edges back in the distance. There we go. Look at that. got the feeling of watercolour flowing. That's what we want. I might even just, yeah, there we go. While we're going, I'll just flick in that feeling of slightly distant hill in here. Lighter tone, more water, and just gauge the amount of water you want on the brush. See, I'm just dapping it to, there we go, lovely. That'll do. Just a bit less water is going to make that mountain there. Strengthen it just a fraction. There we go. Gives a feeling of a distant mountain there. Bring him down. It would look better if he's just stayed a bit lower. There we go. Bring him down. There. That'll run down and settle. Now we've got, see some of these lovely soft greys in our shed here. Now that's dry, we've achieved a nice hard edge. We'll get a feel of those in. A bit of the cobalt blue, even that red again is going to get it for me. And drop a bit of straight cobalt in there. See that? Dropping that in. So I'm getting the point there. Lovely. Maybe even get another wash into this as well. Yeah, see it working down there? Beautiful. Your second wash in there as well for that. Using the point. And we've got our water tank. Big shadow going across him. There we go. Drop that in, work. So it's wet into wet. See, I'm dropping that colour in amongst that main mix. So I'm getting a nice variation in the shadow. That's going to dry back for me, so I will. There we go. It'll have to probably have another.
See if you can adjust yourself around.
Hey, is that better? Bring it around.
No, the other way.
That way?
Yeah. Get it from this side.
Back that way? Or bring it in closer that way? In there? Is that better?
Yeah, that's probably.
Is that better?
Yeah, try it.
Can you see that?
Can't see the mixing there.
That way? Oh, we're only using the 3 colours anyway. It's more important they see the wash coming down, what it's doing on the paper. Yeah, but as I said, we're getting a spare GoPro battery, and that'll come in. And Josh edits it all, and it'll be reloaded on the page for us. For the bit of shadow on the side of the tank there, and on our group page as well. This will be loaded with some close-ups and that sort of thing. Now look, we've got, say, it's only just slightly tinted, even that, just nearly the water. Get a bit of red on there, it's got a feeling of no rust in the tin here and there. There we go, that's what we need. Just the faintest bit of cobalt blue, because we don't want to lose that lovely light in the paper. It's even, as I said, no, it's even good to, which I'll do on the roof. I'll let that dry now, so we're getting a hard edge. No, to keep some white paper coming through your watercolour. Try and find it. If not, now a lot of the time I've noticed, some good watercolourists, they invent a bit of white paper, no excuse, or to leave it somewhere. There we go. feel that roof back there. Shed beside it, that'll do. Again, it's just like the values, isn't it? I've kicked it back in the distance a bit more anyway, scale it, doesn't matter. Now we've got just thicker paint now. So we've got our second wash, which is second wash is more thicker and milky in pigment. There we go. See how the mountain, and you can see the putting it on and the correct amount of water and thickness still cutting around our shed there, structure, is giving us that beautiful simple sort of wash. And look at our cloud, it's working nice too. Now, just a feeling of some of the little dark notes or shadows around the edge of our trees, we can drop them in. Still a bit moist there, you get those lovely edges, see that? Look at that, there we go. It's always better, feeling a one in shadow there, look at that little bit of tone coming out now. It's always better to, I like dropping them in a little bit moist. So you get that soft, lost and found edge. A little bit under there. There we go. We can even strengthen that one up a bit more, just here. There we go. Bring him forward. And one there a little bit more forward. So just rich, a bit more red and the yellow in that mix there. Brings it forward for you. A little bit of the thicker cobalt and a little bit of the cat scarlet red. We've only used 3 colours, haven't we, virtually? 3 colours. It's all in the, the tones we build up. And he could even be strengthen him up here as well. There we go. And usually, with watercolour, I like usually that sky is one wash. You can do sky in one wash. See the luminous quality it has. I'll post this when it dries out. I'll post it on our page as well, so you'll get to see the finished product. I've had a little experiment in drying stages and wet into wet. See what's happening there? Just building them up a little bit, and we can go even over the other side. Yeah, what I was saying is, what I love about a watercolour I aim for is 2 washes, 3 maximum usually, is what I aim for on my watercolour, and then that keeps the freshness. There we go. Is that dry? Yep. I'll just hit it a little bit just to dry it right out, to give it another wash. Look at that white of the roof. It's very important in this painting. Okay, you can see in that little sketch even there, it was just a little tint to it. There we go. Now I'll give that shadowed area another wash with our blue greys with the cobalt and the cat scarlet red. And a lot of the time you can be using any colours in the subject you're seeing. This is just to show you the importance of our drying stages. See that? There we go. A little bit of red in there to indicate a little bit of the rust bolts, and that's too much red. There we go. You see that there? what's working down there. I like to drop in, seeing that colour, maybe a bit just there. Yeah, look at that. Beautiful. See how that's working down? I'll dry back light for us. Lighter. And even just a bit more water, add the water, I'm getting another tone in there, see that? Shadow across our tank again. Lovely. There we go. And with watercolours too, I'm trying to get back into the feel of them, since I haven't done one for ages, but I still keep it in my head, is keep it moving and it's doing its own thing. And you have, a couple, you sort of treat them as throwaways, a couple of warm-ups, that it'll get you back into the rhythm of doing them. There we go. So that's virtually just the grey of the water. It's giving me a little subtle tint here. We'll get a bit of that. Got a rusty colour on there, that'll do. And the roof's got a little bit of ochre rust on there, a little bit of yellow ochre. We'll just get a flick or two on here now. There we go, lovely. A little bit of cobalt, just tinted, just slightly, we'll drop it in there. But I'm going to keep gauging a bit of this roof. We'll lift him out too. Nearly just pure white paper. Give it a zing, there we go. Especially around the edges, lovely. And a little bit of blue. Drop him in there, there we go. Lovely. A little bit there. Keeping the same rhythm as the angle of the roof. There we go. Now we're building, as you see in this painting, we've built up virtually in 2 washes. Ghost wash into our second, slightly thicker, milkier wash, and we'll finish with a few of our dries and that sort of thing. Now we come to, which I'll probably lift out just a fraction, we've got our big tree here. We'll get him in, roughly here, just to give you an idea. Sometimes you just have to soften that edge there. Sometimes I do it as I'm going. That's where the tree's going to go, dampen, so I'm not going to get too many harsh lines running through it. The sponge will do that for us as well. Just a tad, don't need much. There we go. And we'll go with a yellow ochre, a reddy colour, cat scarlet, yellow ochre. So opaque the yellow ochre, isn't it, what we discussed earlier on, and we can get a feel of the, there we go, coming in here. And even when I'm doing the lights, I'm still working, I'm still conscious of where shadows are going to go. You do all your lights, and then that's at the negative space of our tree as well. We want to feel of him coming around. Cuts in around the shed, the edge of our shed roughly. There. Yeah. There. So you get onto quick enough, you can lift it out a fair bit. Look at that. Bits of the bits of the sky, little negative shapes that we're talking about, and bring it over the back of it there so it's not all following the edge of the shed. But as I said, this is just a demo to show you the our drying stages. Down there. There we go. We've got a feeling of the tree there. Now what I do sometimes, just to soften, just a little spray like that. And see what just comes back up a bit. I just dampen that just a little bit. There we go. Look at that. Get them nice softer edges that where the foliage meets the sky and things. Just a balance of hard and soft, and also melts in where it meets the and just guiding it down a bit. Yeah, that'll do. Lovely. Just get a feeling of some of the mop it up there coming through it. Lovely. And we can just thicken again. We'll just thicken, drop a bit in while it's working wet into wet. This is how you get those lovely sort of soft edges in watercolour. We can build up the pigment a bit more there. Add to it. We've got to remember how it's going to dry back for us as well. The lightness, and lift out that little negative space there. Come down the paper. Get a bit of yellow ochre into it there, a bit thicker. There we go. So you really have to fight and battle it and work it around. Lovely. So I'm just thinking about it in my shapes I want. There. So I'm going to let that dry back a bit. I'll let that. Then I'm going to bring in, the darks, our shadowed areas there. I'll just hit it with this, give it up, speed it up for us so we can. Go, dry it back a bit. Let's feel it. Oh, geez, that does dry quick, doesn't it? There we go. Probably put a little bit too much water on there for our negative shapes, but it's not too bad. It's still going to give us the effect. Now, we'll bring in some of the little bits of shadowed area just to form the tree up a bit, which can just be another glaze of a little bit more blue in the mix. Just damp it off. There we go. That gives us our form. Look at that. Just a bit there. Lovely. It's a trick to getting these softer trees. Nothing looks worse in watercolour than a tree that looks like it's been cut out and stuck on. You want to practice these. You'll get a feel for it the more you do as well. the dampness and thickness and when to go back in and get the shadowed effect. There we go, look at that. Bit of shadow on him there, lovely. There. There we go. Drop a little bit of cobalt blue, a bit pure there. Let it work down with it. So just slowly modelling the tree up. I'll get it better than that too when we come to doing them. There we go. So once you get sort of that area of your watercolour done, you can work it in, you know, sort of blocks and stages as well. So softening it back out here and there. And also if I want to just thicken up a little bit of red, just thicken up, look at the highlight just here, I might have put him on there, there we go. Just a little bit of light working back into the dark, there we go. Sort of modelling the tree. Lovely. Soft edges up there. There we go. And once we get a few of the little limbs and that painted in there as well, it's sort of going to give that tree structure. And when we get some shadows on the ground, and we're getting close now to pulling together a few little darks, dry brush dark shadows, and make sure that's dry to get our limb structure in there and things that'll start to come together. But you can see I'm just sort of showing you the drying stages and how to achieve those wet into wet edges and that sort of thing at the moment. Now we'll go a little bit darker, which we're getting a slightly cream feel for our little bit of limb structure in there. It's a little bit drier on the brush. And we'll get this is where you want that, I'm talking about, you know, a brush with a point to it. See the point to it? Dry brush, just flicking it through, lost and found effect. There we go, a little bit lighter, get that lighter grey feel of the trunk. Bringing down, just using just the undercolour of the, nice undercolour of the beside the shed there. There we go. The light undercolour of the ochre wash as well, which is helping us give that lovely glow in the trunk. Look at that. Actually that tree there could have, the distant one's just a little bit bothersome. Could have gone back, doesn't matter. Anyway, it's just a sketch. We can lift him out a bit. There we go. Soften him back. Damp tissue. Or a spot remover will do it. That's better. We'll get the strength of it, come back in with our main trees highlight. There we go, that's better. There we go, lovely. Just the light, then we can get some darks of the trunks in a bit later, but what we'll do now, come back to our shed. It's got that nice little grey shadow under the eaves. It's going to help give us a bit of form. So we're looking at a lighter wash here too, more on our slightly milky feel. I'll make it lost and found, a bit wobbly so it's not too straight. So sort of a brisk stroke. There we go, look at that. Then we can thicken up, a bit thicker. Again, I'm just using the cobalt and the cat scarlet here. It's keeping it all in a sort of a harmony as well. Points. There we go. And we had a bit of a window in here too, didn't we? Roughly. The tone brings it out. Maybe where the eaves are, up here, there's always little dark bits coming through that shooty tins missing and stuff. Spoil that nice simple wash. Window thing there. Bit of a door missing, so it's slightly dry brush effect there. Look at that. Got a little bit muddy in my tree compared to that one. See the wash, but anyway, gives you an idea of the structure and build up. Will do. Thicker. There we go. And the tin's lifted a bit, and the angle going up. There we go, look at that. Just a little bit of detail, don't need too much in there to spoil it. Rust on the tin there, here and there. Dampen him, soften it in, let it run. There we go. Lovely. Now we can come back in. It's a bit thicker. We're going to have a go at that foggy one next. I'm going to do a bit bigger version of it. And Foggy Bridget Burke. I did a little one for the class before it come up well. I'll show you. I don't know whether I posted it or not, but I'll. Gave me an idea. I'd like to do a bigger version of that. Go. See, we bring a limb or two out of it. Ties it up for us. Try and make them, see those strokes are a bit quicker and brisker. Flicking through there, that'll send that bit of sky. And the distance, there we go, look at that. Just want to indicate them as well, we don't want them too dominant, just enough. Using the fine point of the brush. Shadow down the side of it, so we've got our light colour of the branch we're after. There we go. That's a better tree though. Okay, watercolour happens that way. Sometimes it's just, you can sort of paint and you think you're losing the painting, and you can end up one of the better ones you do, and then other times you think, oh, this is looking good, then it doesn't dry the way you want it to. Anyway, you're getting the gist of our stages here. Okay, now we'll pull it together with some shadows. A bit thicker. Now this is where you really want to It's an important stage of the painting to get the tone right and get it in one go. It's a little bit thick, a bit creamier. So we're getting the shadows running off. The painting light's coming this way, so we're gauging in a lovely stroke. Bang, look at that. Slightly dry brush effect. Bang. There we go, look at that. We want that. Lovely. And just soften a bit where it hits the base of our tree building. Not with it too wet. We want these are more brisk. As I said, they're a brisk. See that? Same with our this one here. The tone on him. You probably look good about there. There, look at that. Lovely. Bring the tree down a bit more. Just a little bit of moisture there. There we go. Bit of variation that helps. There, lovely. Even a feel of a bit of the shadow behind the tree there as well. There we go. Now, the sort of that dry brush technique that comes in, sort of the finishing touches, you know, like you know, a few fence posts here and there against there. There's sort of a like that. See that? Bit of tin laying in the ground here and there. Just these little light notes gives a zing to the painting. You could lighten down a fraction there, just there, that's it, lovely. That's our water tank. Feel the pipe going into the tank there. And then we can do the same, bit more bluey shadow in the distance, a bit more blue as it goes back. We can just run a little bit off them there, just a little bit. So dry brush technique, feel of shadow, the odd limb. This one here could have a limb coming into it. See how watercolour, you've got to try and visualise it and sneak up on it. You've got to sneak up on it. Got to sneak up on it. And you've got to have that plan to it, you know. A most cunning plan. More cunning than the most cunningest fox you can think of is what you've got to have for a watercolour. Cunning plan. Most cunning plan, Josh. More cunning than the most cunningest fox.
Good.
That's what watercolour's about. There we go. Bit of shadow there. And there. Look at that. Coming to life now. And we've got a few shadow off in there as well. There. you know, like the, we could probably hit another little wash of our Ready Earth, a little bit of blue in it and to grey it down in areas. You know, just to strengthen up the foreground and bring it forward a bit. There we go. Amazing what you can do with just 3 colours, isn't it? Look at that. It's a bit strong. Let it run off. Now if I want to go. I've got this old cheap hog hair here, I call it the activator. The washers get a little bit stilted and muddy. I bring it out and just hit it with the water, get it flowing again. A bit of richer red to bring it forward. There we go. Ochre just to strengthen it up. There we go. Drop it in the foreground. And we hit spray it. There we go. Look at that. Let it. Look at it wander down the paper. That's what a watercolour's about. Beautiful. Lost and found edges. And we've got some that sort of feeling of a thistle there. We'll just use a bit of the cobalt, a bit of the yellow ochre together even. Gives a grey green. Just to maybe some little bit of interest in the foreground. There we go. Couple there. It's just a demonstration to show you just 3 colours, but it's more about the importance of the transparency of our paper, you know, to be conscious of. And we're just building up thicker as we go along with it. One there. There. We want to, and showing you how to let watercolour do its thing. It'll probably look good too. It needs maybe a little feeling of a twiggy tree against that building. Just a little bush just to break the edge of it. Cobalt. There we go. Maybe just a little. Bush and shadow in there. There we go, that'll do the job. One there. So it's just a little bit of dry brush work at the end. And a few little darks in the thistles. Take us back through the painting a bit. I notice it could have probably just had a little richer wash there, so we'll just hit it with a little bit of ochre. Just a light wash over it, sort of slightly dry brush. There we go. Yeah, lovely. And a little bit of reddy colour to take it. I feel it road through there. There we go. Look at that. Track through it. Be careful, don't roll these lovely broad simple washers. As I said, hopefully we'll have our spare battery and we'll have the GoPro as well, but that just gives you an idea of the the drawings and building up of our lights and the whole thing. Virtually one wash in the sky and 2 washes there, virtually 2 wash painting. You see how lovely lost and found edges and that sort of thing up the back here. So that's good. 20 to 1, is it?
Yeah.
Already, jeez. Okay, now we've gone over time, which I usually do all the time. I'll probably do the next live feed. We're doing it every Wednesday, but the next live feed I'll probably do Sunday morning 10:30 to 12:30, as I want to go out to Forbes next week. My mother's 79th birthday on Tuesday, so. But other than that, when I come back, we'll be back on to our Wednesday mornings. So we'll get and we'll sketch in the Foggy Bridge one. We'll get that underway on Sunday. But as I say, the beauty of this is if you don't tune in Sunday, you can. Josh will have it uploaded on YouTube, and I'll take a photo of this so you can. Get a feel of that. So okay then, if you want to watch live Sunday or watch it in your own time, then. But as I said, after that it'll be the following Wednesdays. So okay then, we'll see you all later.